Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for March the 7th. Today we are reading together a couple of chapters in Exodus chapter 27 and also Exodus chapter 28. These two chapters contain more instructions concerning various aspects of the tabernacle complex, as well as instructions concerning the garments of the priest, what they were to wear as they are carrying out their particular duties. So read about the altar for the burnt offerings, read about the courtyard, read about the lampstand and the oil, or the lampstand oil, and then finally the priestly garments in chapter 28. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Hope that you're having a good rest of your day. Again, I know this is not the most exciting read in the world, but it is scripture. It's good for us to read. It's good for us to be familiar with, and might help us to learn some things down the road. So let's read together here in Exodus chapter 27. Exodus chapter 27, verse number 1, you are to construct the altar of acacia wood. The altar must be square, 7.5 feet long, and 7.5 feet wide. It must be 4.5 feet high. Make horns for it on its four corners. The horns are to be of one piece. Overlay it with bronze. Make its pots for removing ashes, and its shovels, basins, meat forks, and fire pans. Make all its utensils of bronze. Verse 4, construct a grate for it of bronze mesh, and make 4 bronze rings on the mesh at its 4 corners. Set it below, under the altar's ledge, so that the mesh comes halfway up the altar. Then make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. The poles are to be inserted into the rings, so that the poles are on two sides of the altar when it is carried. Construct the altar with boards so that it is hollow. They are to make it just as it was shown to you on the mountain. You are to make the courtyard for the tabernacle. Make hangings for the south side of the courtyard out of finely spun linen, 150 feet long, on that side, including 20 posts and 20 bronze bases with silver hooks and silver bands for the post. And so make hangings 150 feet long for the north side, including 20 posts and their 20 bronze bases with silver hooks and silver bands for the post. For the width of the courtyard, make hangings 75 feet long for the west side, including their 10 posts and their 10 bases. And for the width of the courtyard, on the east side toward the sunrise, 75 feet. Make hangings 22.5 feet long for one side of the gate, including 3 posts and their 3 bases. And make hangings 22.5 feet long for the other side, including their 3 posts and their 3 bases. The gate of the courtyard is to have a 30-foot screen embroidered with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely spun linen. It is to have 4 posts and their 4 bases. All the posts around the courtyard are to be banded with silver and have silver hooks and bronze bases. The courtyard is to be 150 feet long, 75 feet wide at each end, and 7.5 feet tall, or 7.5 feet high, all of it made of finely spun linen. The bases of the posts are to be bronze. All the utensils of the tabernacle for every use, and all its tent pegs, as well as all the tent pegs of the courtyard, are to be made of bronze. You are to command the Israelites to bring you pure oil from crushed olives for the light, in order to keep the lamp burning regularly. In the tent of meeting outside the curtain that is in front of the testimony, Aaron and his sons are to tend the lamp from evening until morning before Yahweh. This is to be a permanent statute for the Israelites throughout their generations. Chapter 28, have your brother Aaron and his sons come to you from the Israelites to serve me as priest. Aaron and his sons Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar. Make holy garments for your brother Aaron, for glory and beauty. You are to instruct all the skilled artisans whom I have filled with a spirit of wisdom, to make Aaron's garments for consecrating him to serve me as a priest. These are the garments that they must make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a specially woven tunic, a turban, and a sash. They are to make holy garments for your brother Aaron, and his sons, so that they may serve me as priests. They should use gold, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and fine linen. They are to make the ephod of finely spun linen embroidered with gold and with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. It must have 2 shoulder pieces attached to its 2 edges so that it can be joined together. The artistically woven waistband that is on the ephod must be of 1 piece, according to the same workmanship of gold, of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and of finely spun linen. Take 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of Israel's sons, 6 of their names on the first stone, and the remaining 6 names on the second stone, in the order of their birth. Engrave the 2 stones with the names of Israel's sons, as a gem cutter engraves a seal. Mount them, surrounded with gold filigree settings. Fasten both stones on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as memorial stones for the Israelites. Aaron will carry their names on his 2 shoulders before Yahweh as a reminder. Fashion gold filigree settings and 2 chains of pure gold. You will make them of braided cord work and attach the cord chains to the settings. You are to make an embroidered breastpiece for making decisions. Make it with the same workmanship as the ephod. Make it of gold, of purple, blue, and scarlet yarn, and of finely spun linen. It must be square and folded double, 9 inches long and 9 inches wide. Place a setting of gemstones on it, 4 rows of stones. The first row should be a row of carnelian, topaz, emerald. The second row, a turquoise, lapis lazuli, and a diamond. The third row, a jacinth, and agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They should be adorned with gold filigree in their settings. The 12 stones are to correspond to the names of Israel's sons. Each stone must be engraved with a seal with one of the names of the 12 tribes. You are to make braided chains of pure gold cord work for the breastplate. Fashion 2 gold rings for the breastplate and attach them to its 2 corners. Then attach the 2 gold cords to the 2 gold rings at the corners of the breastpiece. Attach the other ends of the 2 cords to the 2 filigree settings, and in this way attach them to the ephod's shoulder pieces in the front. Make 2 other gold coins and put them at the 2 other corners of the breastpiece on the edge that is next to the inner border of the ephod. Make 2 more gold rings and attach them to the bottom of the ephod's 2 shoulder pieces on its front, close to its seam, and above the ephod's woven waistband. The artisans are to tie the breastpiece from its rings to the rings of the ephod and a cord of blue yarn, so that the breastpiece is above the ephod's waistband and does not come loose from the ephod. Whenever he enters the sanctuary, Aaron is to carry the names of Israel's sons over his heart on the breastpiece for decisions, as a continual reminder before Yahweh. Place the Urim and the Thummim in the breastpiece for decisions, so they will also be over Aaron's heart whenever he comes before Yahweh. Aaron will continually carry the means of decisions for the Israelites over his heart before Yahweh. You are to make a robe of the ephod entirely of blue yarn. There should be an opening at its top in the center of it. Around the opening, there should be a woven collar with an opening like that of body armor, so that it does not tear. Make pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn on its lower hem and all around it. Put gold bells between them all the way around, so that the gold bells and pomegranates alternate around the lower hem of the robe. The robe will be worn by Aaron whenever he ministers, and its sound will be heard when he enters the sanctuary before Yahweh and when he exits, so that he does not die. You are to make a pure gold medallion and engrave it with the engraving of a seal, holy to Yahweh. Fasten it to the cord of blue yarn, so that it can be placed on the turban. The medallion is the medallion is to be on the front of the turban. It will be on Aaron's forehead so that Aaron may bear the guilt connected with the holy offerings that the Israelites consecrate as all their holy gifts. It is always to be on his forehead so that they may find acceptance with Yahweh. You are to weave a tunic from fine linen, make a turban of fine linen, and make an embroidered sash. Make tunics, sashes, and headbands for Aaron's sons to give them glory and beauty. Put these on your brother Aaron and his sons, then anoint, ordain, and consecrate them so that they may serve as priests. Make them linen undergarments to cover their naked bodies. They must extend from the waist to the thighs. These must be worn by Aaron and his sons whenever they enter the tent of meeting or approach the altar to minister in the sanctuary area, so that they do not incur guilt and die. This is to be a permanent statute for Aaron and for his future descendants. That is Exodus chapter 27 and Exodus chapter 29. So as we mentioned yesterday, we're getting all the different details concerning the entire tabernacle complex. So let me share another picture of a rendering of this particular complex that is given in my particular study Bible. And again, it just says a reconstruction of the tabernacle and its court. The tabernacle is always set facing the east. So this view that you're seeing is from the northeast portion of the tabernacle, the way it would have looked right here. So the first thing that we're noticing within this text that is mentioned in chapter 27 is the altar of the burnt offering. And I think you can see my mouse right here. Hopefully that right there would be the altar that is being described here. This is the altar. This altar is 7.5 by 7.5, so it is square in its form. It's 4.5 feet tall. It is made out of bronze, and it has 4 horns on the corners. The detail here is very specific, and the expectation is for Moses and the people to follow these instructions to the letter, to make sure it is as God would have it to be. As I mentioned previously, again, when everything at the tabernacle, at least for me, I normally just think of this building right here, but the entire tabernacle complex is described here. This white wall, almost a fence of sorts, this barrier is what separates the rest of the camp from the holy portion of God's tabernacle complex. It's 150 feet long and 75 feet wide. It's made of all these different stakes here. There are posts, and there's the linen that is hanging from the posts. It's got the bases to sit into. You can see the entrance down here in the lower left-hand corner. And then inside of the tabernacle would be that section that has the various pieces of furniture. In this front half, taking up about 2/3 of the tabernacle, would have been the holy place, where we see the lampstand and the table and an incense altar. The oil that is described in verses 20 through 22 is the oil that would burn in there. Having been made from pure olive oil, would have been a very, very high smoke temperature, so it would not smoke very much. And obviously that's purposeful to be inside of this enclosed space. And then in the back, about 1/3 of the area would be the Ark of the Covenant or the Ark of the Testimony, depending on what you might be reading. So that's what we see here described as the last portions of the tabernacle complex here, as it is illustrated in this particular picture. Now, the rest of the text is dedicated to the priesthood and describing what the priests were to wear. So I have an illustration of that as well. Let me pull this over here so I can see it. There we go. Here is an illustration of the priestly garments, and I will read any caption just as an artist rendition of the high priest garments as is described through verse 38. The other priest garments would be a little bit different. But here we have the description, as you can see on the screen. Very ornate. It's very beautiful. And one of the things that is necessary to recognize is that the garments, the beauty of the garments, many of the descriptions actually parallel with the tabernacle itself and the way that it is supposed to be constructed. So I think that these garments definitely reflect the holiness and the special nature of the place in which they are serving. Starting at the top, we see the turban, and on the turban on the front side right here would be this gold plate with the inscription "Holy to the Lord," or "Holy to Yahweh." So anybody who looks at him know who he is representing. We have the, let's see here, the ephod is this part right here. This, it's almost like a an apron like garment. It's described here with the various colors, the gold and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. Up above that is the breastplate, which has the shoulder straps. This almost looks like, to me, I mean, for those who aren't familiar with any kind of tactical training, it makes me think of a plate carrier that's somebody who is in the military or in law enforcement might wear, that has the body armor on the front. That's really what it reminds me of. You would put it on almost like that, with the straps and then the breastplate right here. Now, within the breastplate, we have these various gemstones, and then we also have this really, really random thing that's mentioned, the Urim and the Thummim. What is that? Well, nobody's really sure. Not exactly sure what this is. Some people think that it might have been a light stone and a dark stone, and it would be used to make decisions concerning God's will, almost the same kind of thing, same kind of idea as casting lots. Really, it's just very, very mysterious. Nobody really knows exactly what it is, but that's okay, because this is not written for us. Those who were receiving this, and that's one of the things about the details that are given here within the text, where there are some details get left out. Those details are left out because those who were receiving this originally would have known exactly what is being discussed. They would have had the ability to carry out these commands because they're living there in that context at that time. They just had an understanding, a level of understanding that we don't know. So what are the Urim and the Thummim? I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. They did, and they were able to carry out these commands in a good way. We have the robe as well, and with the sash right here. We have the fringe, this very interesting portion of this particular part of the garment. You have the bells over here with the little pomegranate, what they call them is pomegranates, woven into the hem. And one of the things that's mentioned about this is that, let's see, where was that at? Yeah, in concerning this robe part, you put the bells on there. The robe will be worn by Aaron whenever he ministers, and its sound will be heard when he enters the sanctuary before Yahweh and when he exits, so that he does not die. So this, to me, sends the message that this, for him, whenever he walks in and is wearing these things, he hears the sound. That would be a sign that he is aware of and submitting to the commands of Yahweh concerning what he was supposed to wear. He respected Yahweh's commands. He submitted to Yahweh's commands. He followed Yahweh's commands, and the bells being on him would be a sign of that very thing. Now, the chapter ends talking about the other priestly garments. One of the things that's of note as well is the fact that they were to let's see here, make for them linen undergarments. This is verse 42. To cover their naked bodies, they must extend from the waist to the thighs. These must be worn by Aaron and his sons whenever they enter the tent of meeting or approach the altar to minister in the sanctuary area, so that they do not incur guilt and die. This would be a permanent statute for Aaron and for his future descendants. Why the need for this? I think one of the reasons for this, again, is a way to separate worship of Yahweh from worship of the pagan gods. So much of the paganistic practices of the ancient Near East involved sexual elements. There was a lot of sexual immorality that took place within the worship of their gods. And here is just an extra way for them to show this is not what it's about. We are not here to satisfy our desires. We are here to satisfy the desires of Yahweh and to serve him and to honor him, and not ourselves. Maybe as you're looking at this picture, you're thinking, that's pretty cool. Do you notice anything that's missing? Is there anything in this picture that you would think, why is that not there? For me, it would be the feet. Where are the shoes? Where are the shoes for the priest? It's not mentioned in the text. It's not said it's not said, don't worry about the shoes. The shoes are just not mentioned at all. So maybe, just maybe, the idea here and the teaching is that they were not to wear shoes. And that would go back to Exodus chapter 3 concerning the holy ground that Moses was walking on. Again, it was practice in ancient Near East to remove shoes as a sign of respect. So maybe that's what's going on here. Them being in the very presence of God, in his holy space, in his sacred space, they would not wear shoes either. Now, it's just very interesting considering the robes, these garments that the priests were to wear, and then to consider that we ourselves are priests of God. And I said that we were going to talk about that last Sunday. And again, I forgot that I said we were going to do the other lesson. So this upcoming month, this next month in April, we will do the lesson on how we are priests in Christ. We are the priest of Christ's kingdom, but we don't have anything like this to wear. Well, why not? Well, I think one of the things we'll talk about is the fact that we're not clothed in this way. Instead, we are clothed with Christ, and we have God's presence with us, and that I think is the representation of us, of the fact that we are in the presence of someone who is holy and who is awesome in every way. Having Christ, being clothed with him, that would be the parallel, I guess, to what we see here within this particular text, reading about the garments that they were to wear. So tomorrow we're going to look at the consecration instructions that are given in chapter 29 of Exodus here. Hope that you will tune back in for that. A lot of we'll just say a lot of very specific, a lot of what's the word I'm thinking of, very plain details. It's just going to tell you exactly what is expected for the people to do concerning earlobes and thumbs and blood and kidneys and livers and entrails, and it's very descriptive. So if you're a little squeamish, you might want to not listen tomorrow on a full stomach. It's just one of the realities of the law of Moses. It was a very bloody system, and there's many reasons why I'm appreciative for living in the time that I do, because I get to live under Christ and the covenant that we have with him. One of the reasons for that is we don't have to do this, and for that I'm very appreciative. But we will be reading about the consecration instructions tomorrow from Exodus chapter 29. I hope that you will tune in then. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those in the comment section below. Everyone have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you, and we'll see you again tomorrow as we read again in Exodus chapter 29. See you then.